Hello there. Thanks so much for joining me for another tutorial. I'm Erin Eno, and today we are going to be painting these two orange cosmos. And bonus surprise, we're going to be doing them on a non-cotton sketch pad. If you do like this tutorial, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. And to see more tutorials like this one, please be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Grab your paints and let's get painting. So today I am using my Royal Talens Van Gogh watercolors. I have a jar of water and a paper towel, and I have 3 brushes today. I have a size 10 round in a Curry's 2500 series brush. I have a size 6 round in their 2400 series, and I have a Princeton snap in a size 2 round. Now what I'm excited to show you is the paper that I'm using today. I am always in search of a really good watercolor sketchbook. I know there are 100% cotton sketchbooks out there that I would love to have, but you know, they're just not in my budget, especially just for playing around. So I always want to find a really good non-cotton sketchbook, and I think I have found my favorite. And it is the 5.5 by 8.5 watercolor. They call it a pad, but it's a book, obviously, by Artisto. I think that's how you pronounce the name. And I've really been enjoying this. This is my second one, and I'm just starting it. It's brand new, so I'm excited to get into that. And I wanted to try one out before I kind of really, you know, blasted this to you guys as a recommendation. But it is a really good book. Now, you run into the same issues that you do for any non-cotton paper. That's like uneven drying times, but everything else is like really awesome for this little book. It is 140 pound. They have perforated sheets, and what I really like about this book is they say it's 5.5 by 8.5, and that's the perforated size. So the book is a little bigger. If you tear the sheet out, the actual sheet is 5.5 by 8.5, which you don't see very often. It's got an awesome cold press texture, really similar to decent cotton paper, and I really like that. And you can do paintings on both sides. What else can I tell you about this? Oh, the price. This is the main thing. I'm in Canada, and they sell these in packs of 3s, and I will put the Amazon links in the description box so you can check them out if you like to. So as I said, they come in sets of 3. In Canada, when I ordered it on Amazon, it's $29.99, I believe. And if you're in the States, it's only $19.99. So per book cost, this is awesome. And I just sit here and have it in front of me at night, and I can just doodle in it anytime I like. And I will show you how well it performs. Now, I don't have high-end sketchbooks because I would be afraid to just like doodle. This pad, you can just doodle away and do like crazy things. So these are just some sheets I've torn out, but here I just doodled some little leaves. This is a doodle I did when I was practicing for my Easter card, and I'll show you some of the this I did a lot of lifting and blending. See how nice that went? And these were the practice little eggs. You can get really nice shading on them. This was from a tutorial as well, and there's, see, I just like doodle away in a mess, and I wouldn't want to do this in a $50 sketchbook. So that's just a little floral arrangement. This is for an upcoming tutorial. This is another little floral arrangement. Look how pretty that came out for a non-cotton paper. I think this is just awesome. This was just a crazy wild abstract, but you get the idea of how nice the bleeds go. I'll just show you a couple other things. See, I was just going leaf crazy. And I wouldn't, like I say, want to fill a really expensive sketchbook with this, but you can see how you can come across the issue of uneven drying time, but you get that with any non-cotton paper and some cotton papers. That's still a tricky thing to deal with. So I'm not surprised. I'm actually surprised at how well it performed. This was a little practice for a tutorial, you may remember if you saw it, and more leaves. And more leaves. I've been having a blast doing leaves. And this little flower arrangement here, look how nice the bleeds are on this. And oh, and I also wanted to show you, it can really handle water, because I was playing around one night and I absolutely drenched this page in water. I mean, I drenched it. And the only thing it did was kind of curl up like this a bit. It didn't buckle and wave. So it really takes water well. And I haven't come across another non-cotton paper that performs like this. There's a little flower thing I did, some colored leaves, leaves, and more leaves. This cute little painting. This paper performs awesome, and I think you really like it. Playing around, don't like it. There is a Morning Glory I was working on. You can see how nice it took the bleeds and the blending there. Here's a real kind of graphic piece I did. If you follow me on Instagram, you would see some of these paintings, and here I did this upside down. But there is a little abstract floral, again, kind of drenched with water in there, but you see how well it handled. So like I say, I'll put the link in the description box for these if you are interested. I think you'd really like them. So on to the painting. Enough about the sketchbook, and I'm not affiliated with the sketchbook in any way. I just think it's a really good sketchbook. So I will be ordering more. Please don't order them all on me, so when I go to find them, they're all gone. Please don't do that. Okay, so I want a kind of a bright, cheery orange Cosmo, or Cosmos. I think it's Cosmos with an S, even if it's a singular. Okay, so I've got some permanent, actually, you know what? I don't know if it's permanent yellow. It's lemon yellow, permanent lemon yellow. I think I should know that by now. And I'm just going to put in the slightest amount of carmine, just a bit. That was way too much. Carmine goes a long way, apparently. Okay, so we've got a nice bright orange here. And I'm going to make a wash of that over here, because we want to do the petals with a light wash, but I do want a heavier pigment there to do some detail. Okay, so we're going to do 8 petals, and we're going to do kind of these jagged ends. So you can just kind of drag your brush down and you automatically get these little jagged tips on your petals. Okay, so there's one. This might be a little heavy. But it's okay, we're going to go with it. 2. And some of your petals can have spaces between them and some of them can touch. Totally up to you. Just kind of vary them a bit. 3. 4 petals. See how I'm leaving that jagged edge? 5. Make that one a little wider. 6. Okay, so you've got these rough, kind of wavy, spiky tips. Now some of them are rounded, but we're just doing a kind of a general cosmos. Okay, so now all that's down. I'm going to switch to my smaller brush. I'm not sure if my size 5 or 6 rather will be too big, but we'll see. Let's give it a go. I'm just going to wet it, but I'm going to dry it off on my paper towel and go into this heavier, thicker pigment and just tap some in the center. I might even go stronger than this, and you can tap some on the end of the petals. Like so. Now we want to go in and do the lines as well, but we don't want them to bleed out too softly, so we'll do that after we do the little tips. So that way it's had time to dry, and when we do the lines, they won't spread out so much. Now, if you get areas that aren't bleeding because it's been dried too much, just go in and with a clean damp brush, just coax that color down. Okay, so I will go into the center, tap a little bit more. I might even wait till it dries a little bit. Now, to get some fine lines on the petals, I'm actually going to use the back end of my brush. You've seen me do this a lot of times. So we're just going to do some lines using this method. Okay, so we get some thin lines. It's a lot easier to do it this way than it is with a brush. Just like that. Now I do want the tips to be a little darker, so I'm just going to get a little bit of that carmine, a little bit, and we're just going to mix up a little thicker consistency. The center can actually even afford to be a little more on the red side too, so we don't have to worry about actually, you know, dead matching that orange color. I'm going to make it a little bit more red. And just tap right in the center, just like that. Okay, now I'm going to let that sit for a bit before we paint any thicker lines on there, because I think it's too wet to go in and do that. Let me just tip my paper to see. I think we can start on some of these other leaves. This one's still really wet, but we'll see if we can go into there. So I'm going to go with my size 2 brush and into this heavier pigment, not the real red one that I just mixed, but the heavier orange. Okay, and just with the very tip of my brush, I'm going to move this, and we're just going to just do some lines, just like that. Okay. Now, if it's too dry and you're finding your lines are too literal, you can just go in and soften them up with a damp brush. But I'm just going to get them in first. Okay, just fine lines. This one's the one that's still pretty wet, so I don't know how this one's gonna take it. Oh, not too bad. So I will go in and soften some of these. So I'm just using a damp brush and just running along the edge of some of those lines just to soften them up. Like so. Just like that. Okay, and then while that sits, because we don't want to go in and do the center yet, or it would just screw everything up, we are going to have a go at a view that's a bit on the side, just a bit of an angle. So we're going to that wash again, and we're going to do 4 petals. Remember to leave white in the center. These petals are kind of mushed together, but that's okay. We can put shading into that to kind of separate them a bit. Do another one over here. Okay, and we're going to tip this one. So it's just curved just a little bit. So this one will start to curve up for this petal, like so. And then these two front ones will be shorter. These petals aren't quite thick enough, but we'll do them shorter and coming in like that. Okay, so it's almost like a little bit of a scoop shape. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with my number 6 again, with that heavier pigment, and we're going to tap along the tips. This one might be a little dry. Actually, you know what? I don't want to do that to that one. I'm going to do something different there. Now, to separate the petals, you could also do some heavier lines to separate these two. Tap some in the center. Center these guys. Okay, so these dried a little quicker because it is a non-cotton paper, so I'm just going to clean my brush off, tap it off on my paper towel, and just kind of blend these tips out a bit. Even bring some of them down, some of that darker orange down. And then I'm going to just touch the orange that we put in the center, just so that bleeds out a bit. And for these two, I want to make them look like they're kind of curled up. So I'm going to leave this kind of area here lighter. And then what's inside will almost be like in the shade, if you get what I mean. Hopefully it'll make sense once I get this color down. And you'll see it'll start to look like that the ends are kind of curled up. Okay, so just with a damp brush, blend this around. Okay, so you see how it kind of looks like it's scooped up. It might be a little light, a little too light. Maybe we can just put another little hit of the orange like that. Okay, so that kind of looks like a little scoop. Tap a little more of that darker orange in there, in the centers. Blend out that bleed a little bit. See, with a non-cotton paper, you have to work a little bit at it, but you can get there. I'm just going to put a line there to separate these guys. Okay, now I think we will go in and put a little bit more of that darker orange in the centers. Because I've been playing around in there, it should bleed out because it's a little damp. I want to mix a little bit more though. Just like that. And now we'll go in. I didn't do the lines with the back of my brush, and I think it's too late now. So we'll have to do these ones all by hand, but that's okay. Okay, so go in with the darker orange and just do these lines. And when you do these, if your petals are straight, just go straight up and down. This might be a little heavy, so I can just tap some of that up. Just like so. And now the petals are starting to curve as they go out to the side. So I'm going to just follow that curve. Just like that. Make some of them a little heavier. Go into this wet one. I hope it's dry enough now to get some lines on there that aren't going to bleed too much. And we have to do some darker lines in the shade here, so I don't know if these guys will show up all that well, but we'll get the idea. And actually what I'm going to do is kind of make this edge a little more ruffled. So just make it a little more uneven. Just play around and put some shading in there. Okay, and we can, as we did before, soften some of these lines up just with a damp brush. And then what I think I want to do, just to make it pop a little bit more, is put more of a put more of a red color in the very center. Okay, so I'm going to take the lemon yellow and just add a little bit more carmine than before, just so it's a little more on the red side. And although it's dry, that's okay. We're going to blend these out. I just want a little more interest towards the center. Just like that. Now we can make this bleed out, but I think what I'm going to want to do is take my size 2 brush, dry it off, and just kind of do these quick, light strokes, pulling that red paint out. See that? And again, follow the curves of the petals. And if you have to, turn your paper so you just make it easier to get that curve. Like so. These ones will come down. And we're going to do the same thing to the flower at the top. Okay. So again, I'll go to my size 6 brush. Now, if you just want to do these flower heads in a floral bouquet, then that's fine. But if you want to do stems, I will do stems on these so you can see, because they have kind of funny leaves. So you can just do them like this, like I say, as flower heads. Or you can do them on their own with stems. So again, just lightly with the tip of this small brush, pulling this paint out. So I'm going to use my size 6, and I'm going to take some sap green, some olive green, and I think a bit of ultramarine deep. Okay, and I don't know if my hand's steady enough today to do stems with this size brush, but we'll see what happens. So I'm just going to do, this is the center, so we're going to imagine that the stems kind of coming down this way and a little bit curved. Okay, so I'm just going to go up like that. And this one can be coming out of this center. And you know what? I'm going to have it kind of come down this way. Okay, so there's the stem. I'm just going to soften that edge to get some depth to it. Now the leaves are kind of odd, so they basically come off with these straight kind of spiky leaves. So just with the lightest touch, just do a stem and then these kind of almost like pine tree branches. Like that. We'll do one that's coming right out of the middle of this stem as well. Like so. Put a couple on this little guy down here. Curl some of them down. I'll do some curly ones on this one too. This one looks a little wonky. Some of those leaves should be kind of curling like that. Okay, just to give them some movement. Okay, you don't have to fuss with them too much, but there you go. Now the centers of each flower are yellow, and I'm going to use my Azo Yellow Medium because it's a little more opaque and a little less kind of fluorescent than the lemon yellow. And I'm just going to tap it in close to full strength because I don't want it to bleed when we put a deeper color in. I'm just going to put a little bit of a deeper color in to give it some dimension. Okay, and I don't want it to bleed too much, like I said. So I'm just tapping little dots in. And you don't want to fill it all in. You want to leave some white space. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with my size 2. And I'm going to take some raw umber just to add some shading. Maybe I'll throw a little bit of sepia in there too, just to deepen that up a bit, but not crazy dark. Now hopefully that yellow is thick enough that this isn't going to bleed too much. So I'm just tapping it into some of those white areas. But I want to leave some white. I don't want to fill it all in. Okay, do some around the edge just to give it some depth here. Just like that. Same with this guy. I may have gone a little too far with that one, so we'll put some yellow blobs back in. Now I think what I want to do, and I may ruin this, I don't know, we'll see. I want to try to get a little bit more red around the center, just so it pops a little more. Whoops, wrong yellow. Now hopefully I can do this without ruining the center, but I'm just going to tap some of it just around here a little bit. Just to beef up that red in the center. Yes, that's my neighbor's dog, as always. Quiet all day, and then comes out when I'm painting or when I'm filming. Okay, so that just gives it a little bit more depth towards the center. And if you want, you can kind of soften it up a bit. I'm just squiggling my brush around just to soften it up just slightly. And there you go. There are your two cosmos done on non-cotton paper. So it just goes to show you that you can get some decent non-cotton paper, and I hope you guys give this sketchbook a try. I'm really enjoying them. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you found it helpful. And if you do give this painting a try, please be sure to share on Instagram and tag me so I can have a look. That's it for today. Thanks so much for joining me and supporting my channel as always. Take care, and I will see you next time.